Hello there, you're watching The Fact Flash. Tonight's headline is simple and loaded. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the Russian President Vladimir Putin in China on the sidelines of the SCO Summit, and the line that cut through the noise was that India-Russia energy cooperation isn't just about barrels and invoices. Delhi is pitching it as a bridge to peace and stability in the Ukraine war. That's the frame. And it matters. Let's set the scene. The SCO Summit is currently in China. It is the big tent where Asia's power politics mingle with economics. You had Jinping, Putin, and Narendra Modi under the same roof, the classic RIC triangle that grabs cameras and headlines every time it clicks into place. Photos of handshakes and warm optics, they did it around, reminding everyone that beyond press statements, these three still have choreography. On the India and Russia track, the bilateral had two layers. First, the symbolism. Putin calling Modi a dear friend, a friendly moment. Gestures that tell Moscow and Delhi audiences that the relationship is not drifting. Second, the substance, energy ties, payments, and the language of peace. Modi's message positioned India as a responsible stakeholder, not just buyer of discounted oil, but a country using that footing to talk about ending the war. Now, why does energy dominate the script? Well, because fuel is the bloodstream of India's economy. Since 2022, India has become one of the largest buyers of Russian crude, often around 1.7 to 1.75 million barrels per day. This year, even though the monthly graph has dips and bumps, those barrels typically discounted versus alternatives act like national coupon codes, softening the blow at petrol pumps, helping refineries manage margins, and giving the Reserve Bank of India a little breathing room in inflation. Now, think of it like your favorite kirana store offering a bulk discount. Maybe not very glamorous, but it keeps the kitchen running, you see. Add this to the plot. US tariffs, Washington's new tariff regime, has tightened the screws on India across several sectors. In that environment, having reliable and cheaper energy becomes even more strategic. If you are an importer facing pricier markets elsewhere, sticking with a big supplier offering better terms is rational. Delhi's calculus is diversify the risk and keep the lights on. That's what they are going after. But energy is no longer only oil. Moscow is pitching LNG expansion and reinforcing nuclear cooperation. If oil is the scooter you ride every day, LNG and nuclear are the metro lines you build for the next generation. So LNG expands flexibility for industrial uses and gas-fired power. Nuclear is base load, the bringing of dependable workforce. Russia's very own officials have been public about this push toward LNG to India and deepening the civil nuclear track. Then there's the plumbing of trade, how to pay. The Modi-Putin layer cake includes rupee, ruble, and special rupee mechanisms. Now, all of these, they decide whether a shipment gets paid in days or gathers dust in banks' compliance inbox. The RBI, however, has been tweaking rules so Russian entities can, they can kind of use surplus rupees more freely, investing in G-SECs, bonds, even equally in exploring third country settlement via partners like UAE. Translation, make the pipes wider, reduce the leaks, and get good moving without tripling the sanctions and wire transfers. Inside the summit hall, Putin repeated an old but central line that you cannot talk peace in Ukraine without talking NATO enlargement. On the Indian side, the words were measured, support for peace efforts and need to move forward. Classic Delhi phrasing that signals engagement without actually endorsing anyone's war narrative. It's the language of country, that wants leverage with all sides. Now, how does this matter to an average Indian, which is people like you and me? Let's make it real. If you're a small manufacturer in Gujarat running a diesel generator during peak outages, your per unit cost is tethered to global oil. If you're a middle class commuter in Vadodara, you might not see petrol at throwaway rates, but you could be avoiding the worst. Policy isn't, always discount that you see at the pump. Often, it is the absence of the price shock that never came. Consider LNG. If more LNG flows from Russia and other sources, city gas networks and industrial consumers, they get an insurance policy that helps factories in Ankleshwar or Sanand, and keeps kitchen LPG and piped gas ecosystems healthier. The broader push to expand the nuclear capacity matters because base load, it means stability. Now the geopolitics, because the optics today were not just bilateral. The RIC, Modi and Putin, the Jinping signals a preference for, you could say, multipolarity. China, meanwhile, they used the SCO stage to pitch an SCO development bank and new loans, trying to stretch the SCO beyond just security into development finance. Now for India, staying present in that room is hedging. You keep a chair in forums where energy, payments, and security narratives are being stitched. You cannot rewrite a chapter if you walk out of the room, if you walk out of that very same room. Let's talk outcomes you can hold in your hand. 1. The messaging itself is an outcome. Framing energy trade as a price of the peace puzzle gives Delhi a diplomatic bridge. We buy and we also talk peace. 2. Next steps are when the steel meets the road. Do we see announcements on LNG supply contracts, payment corridors, insurance for shipping, or nuclear milestones in the coming months, possibly at a December interaction in India? Question mark. If those land, today's words become tomorrow's contracts. Of course, there are risks, and everyone's aware. Russia's refining outages, some from Ukrainian strikes, can tighten diesel flows. Even if crude is available, that can change the discount math and freight routes. Markets move and policy must be nimble. For India, that means keeping Saudi Arabia, United States, Iraqi and African barrels in the mix. Buying the fuel oil VGO when it's economical and not getting tapped in any single supplier story. The data this year shows India's purchases adjust month by month. That's not flip-flop, that's portfolio management. So with this and a lot more that might happen, there are also assumptions that are being made by certain sources that if Putin and the Ukrainian president, they come to India, there might be chances that in Delhi, there might be a declaration that Russia might stop their attacks on Ukraine, the war might stop. And in fact, Narendra Modi might get the Nobel Peace Prize. Let's see what happens. Until then, make sure that you stay tuned to the Fact Flash.